I want everyone out there listening to understand that you as a person is completely separate from you as a brand, right? So you are complex. You're allowed to be whoever you want to be, and that is not for consumption. You cannot even place a value on who you are. But we can place a value on what you offer based on your experience, your expertise, and what you put out into the market, okay? So your brand personality is a combination of who you really are, or what parts of yourself you put into your brand, and who you want to speak to and attract into your brand based on what you sell, right? And so there's so many parts of my life, let's say my spirituality, my family, my love of plants. I be cute the way I dress, but like I'm not an influencer. So that's not the face of my brand. I'm not posting outfits of the day. I'm not posting too many of my plants, because what sells for me are words.
You're listening to the Black to Business Podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. We chat with vetted Black entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and business owners as they provide tips and resources to help take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall. So today on the podcast, we wanted to share a solution to a common theme we see many Black business owners and entrepreneurs struggle with, and that's creating an authentic brand voice and personality and crafting copy that aligns with this. So this is something that we've discussed before on the podcast with other guests, but we really wanted to dedicate an episode to diving into exactly how you can create a brand that sounds like you, feels like you, and is authentically you. So maybe you see yourself in one of the following scenarios. You're feeling the need to hide, to code switch, and shrink for a more aligned way to do business. Or you have this fear that if you show up authentically in your business, you or your business won't be perceived as professional. Or I got another one. Oftentimes what we also see is that there's this fear of taking a political or controversial stand in your business. And I'm here to tell you that you can create an authentic brand and be successful. And today's guest is sharing exactly how. Joining us on the show today is copywriter Rita Olds. Rita specializes in helping her clients develop their signature voice so that they can sell more authentically and generate more revenue. Her main mission is to empower Black women and femmes to find, develop, and use their voices to change the world. She helps clients write persuasive, science-based web copy with personality and have stress-free launches with words that sell. During our conversation, Rita and I are diving into first understanding copywriting and why it's important for your business. She's going to share some tips on how to write persuasive copy. Then we're diving into developing an authentic brand voice and personality. So this is a real and raw conversation full of so many gems. And before we dive in, I do want to mention that this episode does contain a bit of adult language, so it might not be for the kids. Now, let's dive in. Rita, welcome to the Black to Business podcast. I'm excited about today's topic, so welcome to the show, and we're so glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here, very excited to dive into copywriting and how everyone out there listening can incorporate their personality, have some fun in their business, and maintain their authenticity.
Yes, love it. And I found you on social media because of all of the things you just spoke about and really pushing for people to be authentic. But before we dive in, I want to let our people know who you are. If you could just share who you are, what is it that you do in your business, and how did you get where you are today?
Whoa, that is a loaded question. So first of all, I'm Rita Olds. Hey, everybody out there in the podcast world. My pronouns are she and her, and I am a copywriter. A copywriter is simply someone who writes words to sell things. The things can be an idea, an event, their influence, a product, a service. So I write those words, and how I got here, I mean, to keep it short and without being like super woo-woo, I've always been a writer. Words are kind of just my thing. Started very naturally, started reading at 3, knew I wanted to be an English writing major, but I realized that what copy was at an internship at American Eagle Outfitters. Surprisingly, their headquarters are in Pittsburgh. Who knew? So I got right. So I went to Pitt and I landed a marketing internship because I was a writer, and I just dove into how much research they do and how powerful words were, from product descriptions to billboards to in-house training. And I just fell in love with it. Circled back to it in about 2019 and started freelancing for myself. And long story short, now I'm here.
I love it. So Rita, you already have told us what copywriting is and what a copywriter does. So really how you dove into your internship and into that world, just explaining for our audience, like, why is this important for businesses to be thinking about copywriting, to be thinking about creating good copy? Like, why is it important?
Oh, okay. When you think about businesses, I know that a lot of small business owners kind of focus on what's cute, kind of focus on their product, kind of focus on their service, which is amazing. When you think about enterprises and you think about corporations, you think about, just do it, like Nike, right? You think about, think differently, like Apple, and those things that you affiliate with a brand, and those feelings are words. Everything is a word. If you had to describe Nike, you're going to use words. If you had to describe Coca-Cola, you're going to use words. Like if you had to describe Gucci, you're going to use words. And that is very intentional. So when Gucci and Coca-Cola and Apple and Wendy's and whomever get into a room and they say, how do we want people to feel, think, and see our brand or relate to our brand, they're writing down adjectives, right? And then from those adjectives, they're writing down words we say and words we don't say. And from those words, they associate colors with those words. So if it's chic or classy or exclusive, it may be black and white. But all the visual things that you see before it gets to commercial all starts with words. So a copy is so important because it invokes emotion, and most decisions are emotionally based, right? Whether you think you're being logical or not. Most buying decisions are based on emotions, whether you're trying to solve a problem, whether you're trying to feel included, whether you're seeking a solution, whatever it is, you want to be in the in crowd, you are using your emotions to buy. So that's why it's so important on an enterprise level. But small businesses are enterprises in the making, right? We want to grow, we want to expand, we want to, expand our revenue and scale. So you have to start with the basics and understand that as you grow and you hire teams and you hire contractors or you sell your business, you have to have a brand, and it has to be fully branded before you can just sell some stuff. Like sometimes we use purple, sometimes we say this, like have a concise brand, and just like you invest in a visual brand, you need to invest in a verbal brand too. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. Totally broke it down. And, like you said, with words, I wouldn't have thought of it like that, but that's why you're the expert. That's why you're here, to make us think like that. I love it. So Rita, you kind of touched on some things, but I want to dive into like what makes great copy, because you talked about emotion and, that relatability. So what would you say makes great copy?
Great copy is relatable. And relatability is completely different for completely different audiences. Like relatability is different for what a 3-year-old relates to versus what a 63-year-old relates to. It's different from different genders, different regions of the world, different regions of this country. So good copy is relatable, and good copy makes you want to do something. If you see something and you're unmoved, sometimes you just want to laugh. Like good copy is like, that was a good one, right? Or sometimes like, oh man, I want that, or oh, I need to know, or preferably I want to buy it. But when that's what good copy is. It's relatable, and understanding your audience and understand what they relate to creates really, really good copy.
Certainly. And so would you say, understanding because my next question is around tips for creating that persuasive copy to make people want to buy, to want to relate and entice people. So what tips do you have for creating persuasive copy?
Ooh, now I could go into like a deep rabbit hole with this, but I'll try to keep it simple. Okay. The first tip in writing good copy is knowing what you're selling beyond the physical product or service, right? And so let's just talk about a hairstylist. a hairstylist, a hairstylist, right? I mean, I'm assuming your audience are Black people, so we know how a person feels leaving the barber chair. We know how a person feels leaving the beauty shop, right? Like you feel good, you feel your absolute best. But what got them into the chair? It could be they don't have the time to do their hair. It could be they don't know how to do their hair. It could be a self-care practice. It could be their hair has been damaged because they've been messing it up at home, right? They could have had a terrible experience with someone else. Those are 5 different reasons why someone can come into your door. And so you need to know the primary reason that your people are coming. And so you can talk to them for that. So there's a difference between saying, give me 2 hours and you'll walk out looking like Beyonce versus saying, carve out some alone time to take care of your crown, right? Those are the same things. Come into my chair and give me your money, but you're connected and related to them on different reasons or problems that they have. So one is not to really assume that everybody has the same problem. So you have to really understand what's their driver and what's their motivator. Do they have problems? Do they know they have a problem? Like some people's hair might be falling out, not realizing they have traction alopecia. Some people might know exactly what their problem is and seeking out a specialty hairstylist. Like, I don't really know. This ain't my industry, but you have to know what your people's problems are. And a lot of people, a lot of business owners are very generic in their personas or who they're in their understanding of their audiences. They're like, oh, I serve Black women who want their hair done. I mean, we can have the lace front queen. We can have the lock queen. We can have the twist out queen. Like, what type of woman is coming? We can still have people who perm their hair. It's like, what type of woman is coming to your chair? So it depends on what type of language you're using. Also, great copy. Great copy is commanding. It literally tells you what to do. So we can write all these words and describe things beautifully, but at the end of the day, you are setting the expectation, like book now, call me, now, so you have to tell people what to do. So good copy or great story is no good if you're not telling people what to do. What else makes great copy? Oh, great copy also just uses the language that people use, right? A lot of people in industries, I'm in marketing, so I might say call to actions, or I might say, click-through rates or bounce rates or whatever, right? I might even say copy. And if people are in marketing, they may not understand copy. It's just words, right? So you have to use the everyday language that people use so they can pick up what you're putting down and do exactly what you need to.
So good. That's so good. I love it. And I love, like you said, that commanding, telling people what to do. And, people don't want to have to think. They want to think they don't want to think as much as possible. They can avoid it. So I love that. And Rita, one of the other things I love when I discovered you is that you really talk about the importance of market research. Like you said, everyone is not the same. So the importance of market research in all of this. And I really want you to dive into what role market research plays in writing persuasive copy or writing copy, and why is it important?
Why is it important? That's a good question. Like, my natural answer would be just because it is. Like, what are you doing if you don't have any data to base your decision making on, right? But to answer the question, market research is important because it gives you a real snapshot of your demographics, lifestyle, emotional state, financial state, and similarities in a sense. So the things that I look for when I'm doing market research, and for anybody out there who may do market research on your own, market research is simply interviewing people, reading up on an industry. And if you have like an agency, we're going to pull data based on historical trends to see what's going on. But one thing you need to know is their age information, their education levels, where they're located, whether they're in the burbs, whether they're rural, whether they're partnered, if they have children. And those are just very basic things. If they're an apartment or homeowners. I also look at how much income they make, like gross, but then I also look at debt. So if they are highly educated, they might have 6 figures worth of debt. If they are high school educated, they might have lower credit card debt. So a high school educated person may have more disposable income than a higher educated person. So you just really don't know, right? So you also want to know, what is their emotional relationship to the industry or your product or service? So to take it back to hair, what is someone's emotional relationship with hair? And that can just be completely loaded for Black culture. But if someone's experiencing alopecia, there may be insecurities there. If somebody's hair, they have all their edges, it's long, it's luscious, it's a relatively desirable hair texture, they may not necessarily have an emotional connection to it unless we're talking about cutting it or trimming it, right? So you need to understand that. You also need to understand kind of like their dark side. And when I say their dark side, it's kind of the things that they won't overtly say, but they'll, if you read like tweets or you read Reddit threads or you read Amazon reviews, you can understand what the undercurrent is. So let's take it back to hair again. If someone leaves a review for a hairstylist and she's pissed that she went in for a trim and the lady cut off 6 inches, then this lady has a real strong connection to the length of her hair. Maybe the length of her hair is connected to her esteem. Maybe the length of her hair is connected to her femininity, right? So that's kind of, and I wouldn't say that's a dark side, but those are things that if you asked her may not come out, but you may need to pick that up when you're doing that type of research. So we talked about debt, we talked about money, we talked about, also just lifestyle. Like, are they, what restaurants will they go to? What restaurants will they never go to? What restaurants are on their bucket list? What do they do for fun? There's so many categories of information you can pick up, but why that's important when you start to grow scale. Like right now I'm on a podcast for Black people because I know that my people are Black people, right? And so there's no point if once you know what podcast your people are listening to, what demographics your people are a part of, you can align yourself, get on those platforms, create Facebook ads, create Pinterest ads, create LinkedIn ads. My people not necessarily on LinkedIn, so I wouldn't spend energy and time there, right? Maybe your people aren't on Facebook, so why are you spending time there? When you think about, like, didn't Meg Thee Stallion do something with Popeyes or something like that? That's because her people are, right? Her people are eating at Popeyes. Are your people eating at Popeyes? Is that something you want to reference in your stuff? Is that a collaboration you want to have? If you're charging $2,000 for coaching, do your people have that much money? So it matters in like product placement, like what stores, it matters in product pricing or services pricing, it matters in collaboration, it matters in ad placement, it matters in language, because if you are marketing to high school educated people, you may be using $500 words that just ain't really gonna connect. So you have to, it matters in everything that you do. And a lot of people are so focused on their superficial understanding of their people that they don't really have an understanding of, like, humans are complex, right? And so you'll never really have a full scope, but you have to dive a little deeper in understanding what gets people ticking, what the connection is to the industry, what language they use to describe their problems, what the heck they're seeking. Some people just really want to be in the in crowd, and it could be as simple as that, right? But some people have deeper understandings that they don't even know. So it's like, marketing is like such psychology, and I could go on and on, but did that answer your question?
It definitely did, because it's also like one of the things we talk about a lot on the Black to Business podcast is really knowing your people. And a part of that is having that proper foundation. Someone talked about before how if you're a business owner, a small business owner, you have limited resources. So you're saying, that market research, knowing that person like the back of your hand, you're knowing where you're going to put your resources and your time. So yes, you answered the question. And
Sweet.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we've gotten the basis of what copywriting is, what a copywriter does, and some of the tips for creating persuasive copy, because that is going to transition us into the next phase of this conversation, which is using all that you taught us in developing a signature brand voice and personality. And I must say, I love your brand voice and I love your personality. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes. And so, well, first, if you could, Rita, just talk about, before we dive in, your personality, your brand voice, like describe that to the people who don't know yet. because they're going to love it.
Ew. Okay. I would say, my brand voice is disruptive, authentic, raw, caring, inclusive. That's how I would describe my brand voice. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure those are the right adjectives.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I love it, because one of the things you talked about earlier is, you know your audience. And I was like, she has to be on the Black to Business podcast, because I feel like establishing a brand voice is so important for Black businesses, because sometimes we feel that we have to hide ourselves. And I'm going in all on the conversation, but I want to preface this by saying that. So let's start by talking about what a brand voice is and what's a brand personality, and how do the two relate?
Okay, absolutely. So one thing, before we even dive into that, I want everyone out there listening to understand that you as a person is completely separate from you as a brand, right? So you are complex. You're allowed to be whoever you want to be, and that is not for consumption. You cannot even place a value on who you are. But we can place a value on what you offer based on your experience, your expertise, and what you put out into the market, okay? So your brand personality is a combination of who you really are, or what parts of yourself you put into your brand, and who you want to speak to and attract into your brand based on what you sell, right? And so there's so many parts of my life, let's say my spirituality, my family, my love of plants. I be cute the way I dress, but like I'm not an influencer. So that's not the face of my brand. I'm not posting outfits of the day. I'm not posting too many of my plants, because what sells for me are words, right? And what sells for me is this persuasion. So all the other parts of me aren't there, but I created what parts of me are really excited about learning, what parts of me are really excited about teaching, what parts of me are really genius in persuasion, and created my brand personality around that. I decided I only wanted to work with Black women and non-binary folks. So those are the people that I speak to. That's the language that I use. So my personality is that part of me plus who I want to talk to, combined in what feels good, what's going to be received well, and that's packaged, right? And so when you think about personality, people are simple, right? We personify animals, we genderize animals, like it's a girl, it's a boy, his name is Tom. We make them human, right? So when you make a brand human, people are able to easily connect to them and relate to them because they're applying human characteristics to them. So if you're selling pop or soda, whatever people say in whatever region of the world you're in, right? Like they are able to connect to that and attribute human characteristics or human feelings or human emotions to that product or service. Okay.
Perfect. And so I think that gives a lot of people like a revelation, because like you said, that that brand is an extension, your business is essentially what people say is an extension of you. And so like you really laid out, like you get to put forth what you want into when it comes to like your brand. So I love that, breaking that down.
Like really think about Beyonce. I know Beyonce be high as a damn kite, right? I know she do. but that is not a part of her brand. So that is not something that is forthcoming. That is nothing. She doesn't celebrate 420 like that. When we think about Rihanna be high as a kite too, but that's a part of her brand. So she puts it in the forefront. And so that's the difference. It doesn't mean you aren't who you are. You just pick and choose what parts of you want to package, really. And I hate to say it in this way because I feel like we have to monetize so many of our hobbies and so many parts of ourselves. But this can work for product-based businesses. This can work for agencies. So this is beyond personal branding too. So it definitely works for product-based and service-based businesses. But you can. This advice I'm giving is for personal brands too. You don't have to change. You don't have to change at all. You just choose what parts you share.
Yeah. And so what would you say is that, so how does that relate into, so you have this personality, and then how do you begin to give a voice to that personality to establish that brand voice?
So I typically start off by values, right? I write
Mm-hmm.
my personal values, then I write what personal values I have, what I want to be true and stay true in my business. And when you think about personal values, that's just my North Star, how I'm going to be in relationship, how I'm going to show up even when nobody's around. And when I think about my business core values, those are my promise to my client, how I'm going to show up for my clients, how I'm going to show up for my team. And obviously how I'm gonna show up for myself. So like one of my values is like do more with less. I don't like to be wasteful. Like in my personal life, I want to compost and I want to like use everything in my refrigerator and just do the most of what I got, right? And then in my business, it's just like we are small but mighty team, right? We're able to take large contracts. We're able to turn things around relatively quickly with a team of 6, but we're able to operate like a full scale agency. And so I start with those values, and then I ask myself, how do you describe somebody who embodies this value? So if you think of someone who does more with less, it is, they're resourceful. Another one of my core values is like shine bright, because my personal experiences in corporate America were kind of traumatizing, kind of wanted me to shrink a little bit. So like anybody in my team, there's no dress code. There's no specific office hours. As long as the work gets done, I don't care how you do it, when you do it, just do it, right? And so that shine bright, I don't really care. I really don't care who you are, as long as you're respectful of other people, respect me as the leader, and we share some commonalities in our values, do your thing. So how do I describe somebody who embodies shining bright? I would say that they are confident. I would say they are, I wish I pulled up my own brand voice, brand guidelines, but whatever. So you use those adjectives. So now we have resourceful and we have confident, and then you choose which adjectives you want to make as your voice. So when I speak, I am confident. When I speak, I am bold. When I speak, I am raw and authentic. And I got all those words from what my core values were and how I describe somebody who embodies those values. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Okay, so that's kind of how we get there. So I want everybody out there listening to know that you don't pull this voice from your ass, right? It's all based on truth, right? It's all based on who you are in your business, who you are in your life. It's really based on who you want to be in the next 3, 5, 10, 20 years, right? And of course, your core values and your brand personality are going to change as you grow, as evolve, as trends change and evolve. But like being resourceful is not necessarily going to go out of style. Being authentic is not necessarily going to go out of style. It's the way you embrace resourcefulness and the way you are authentic may change, because back in the day it was writing a blog from the heart. Now it's showing up on video, dress how you really dress. So that, like, the mediums may change, but the truth and the value won't.
Perfectly said, laid out. And speaking of authenticity, let's talk about the importance of being authentic. Why do you feel that businesses, brands, and entrepreneurs struggle with showing up authentically, and specifically Black entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I only speak to Black people, so I don't know about the rest of these entrepreneurs out here.
Period.
But I don't know, but I can speak from my experience, and I can speak to like my community. I feel like whiteness is professional, right? So all things whiteness, the way that they're able to do their hair, the way they hang clothes, the way they speak, all those things. Extroversion is professional. So if you're introverted, you're perceived as standoffish, rah, rah, rah. So we have all of these ideas embedded in us about what's professional. And so we're so used to code switching in professional spaces that we translated that into our business. So when we think about our business, we're still holding on to corporate standards of professionalism. We haven't redefined what professionalism looks like for us. We haven't even defined what professionalism looks like for us. We haven't given ourselves permission to release all this other shit. You know what I mean? So that's why I know a lot of people are just not being authentic, because they don't know anything else, right? And so you can only give yourself permission, but hopefully conversations like this can give people permission to like do whatever you want to do. Like, outside of delivering what you say you're going to deliver and the timeliness in which you say you're going to deliver it, everything else is whatever. If you think about Gary Vee, he's saying fuck and shit all day long on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what are we saying? So what is professional for real? So I think that that's one of the reasons why we really struggle with authenticity. So once you reconcile that and do work around that or get over that in whatever ways that look like for you, you kind of stuck with like, well, who the fuck am I? What is happening? So you have to define that for yourself too. Like, who am I? How do I want to show up in business? What the hell am I doing? Why am I doing this? And once you get over that hump, I think that a lot of people are able to show up. And you see like the arc, so many entrepreneurs come in like with and I don't want to say goofy because this is you, no shade. So it's goofy for me. Like when I came in, I was like twirling in dresses and taking pictures with mugs and doing all this super goofy stuff that was just what everybody else was doing. And I saw that I did like, I ain't doing this shit no more. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. Like what you really want to see is a white tee and some sweats. Like that's how I'm going to pull up on a stage. That's how I'm going to pull up to you at a coffee shop. And so I feel like a lot of my peers did the same thing. We all came in trying to be like whoever was in front of us. And then we all just kind of had this shift. So that's why pivot right now is really big because people are just pivoting and shifting. And it's not even like a big shift. It's just like coming back to who we want to be or discovering who we were, you know?
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, the pivoting, and then the fact that, you know, what professionalism looks like and that permission that we have to give ourselves. Because one of the things, Rita, I also think too, is that like you said, we have to redefine these things and then also redefine what business looks like for Black people. Mm-hmm. And essentially, I think that people are not grasping kind of that you're the boss.
Yes.
You are the boss. There is no one but your customers, to answer to. So it's like, you get to decide.
Yes. And guess what? You get to decide your customers and clients too. Mm-hmm. So you get to decide what type of people you want to work with. Like if you want to work with people who are on tight deadlines and rush you, if you do well under pressure, then you can work in those type of spaces. Mm-hmm. If you're creative and you get done, work with people who be chilling. Like, so you get to choose your clientele as well. And that goes back to the developing your values. And it's like, you know, I value rest, so I'm be chilling. So from there, you can decide who you want to work with and work with people who are that way too. So yeah, you get to redefine all that. Otherwise, you work for somebody else. Like, what's the point of being in a driver's seat if you're not really setting the GPS to where you want to go and cruising at the rate that you want to cruise at? What's the point?
That might have to be a snippet right there because that's a good one. Choosing the GPS. Yes, I love it. Rita, let's talk about what happens if people don't do these things. So how does that fear of being authentic and really hiding behind a brand or a person that is not truly aligning with who one is, how can that affect their business?
You start to attract people who like the persona. You start to really get frustrated with your business. You don't feel happy in something that you created for whatever you created it for, right? You just don't feel good, right? You start to connect with phony people and people can kind of see through it. Like no shade to the people who are nervous out here on Instagram and the TikToks, but like, have you ever like looked at people and they kind of holding their breath and it just don't feel like they want to do this? Like, why are you on camera? What are you doing? Right. And so
it's awkward. It's so awkward.
And so it's so obvious when something, I hate to use these like words, but when something's not aligned, right? When something doesn't feel good, like it's written all over your face. It's written all over your captions. It's just obvious, right? And so people who resonate with that awkwardness or inauthenticity are fake ass people. So those are the people you're going to attract. And I mean, sure, you can do numbers. You can do a lot of numbers in that way, but I'm in the feel good. I'm in the business of feeling good. And I hope that the people out there are too. So if you actually want to feel good in your business, do your thing. But if you want to, that's all I'm going to say.
Love it. Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And like you said, people can see it, people can smell it. It's like, yeah,
Hmm.
it is so awkward. And then also you are missing out on those people who are wanting to connect with you, but they feel that it's not authentic. So you could be
Hmm.
missing that money.
Yeah.
So what tips and advice would you have for someone who's listening and they're saying like, Rita's right on point. I feel it, but I'm still scared to, maybe it's take that pivot or it's really show up as my full self. I know this is something I need to do. I'm ready. What advice or tips would you give to that person who could overcome that fear and overcoming that fear?
I think the biggest part of overcoming your fear and stepping into authenticity is just saying it. Like, hey, I don't really know what the fuck I'm doing, but what I'm doing don't feel good no more, right? I don't know what I want to do next, but I know that something has to change. And those those are the captions and the reels and the content that really do numbers anyway, because there's so many people who feel like that. So let's lead with the truth, whether you tell yourself it, whether you put it on a post-it note, whether you write it in your journal, whether you tell it to God, whether you tell it to the internet. Like, let's just admit it. Can we confess it first? Like, I just don't feel good no more. I'm thinking about doing something else. And then you can figure out how much you want to share, when you want to share, but just admit it to yourself first, and then start to discover what parts you want to throw away and what parts you want to pick up. Like, what part of your business don't feel good anymore, and what do you want to add into your business? I mean, that authenticity is just truth. Like, what is the truth for you? And start there.
I love that. Authenticity is the truth. What is the truth for you? Yes. Going back to what you said earlier, no business is the same. How you speak it's not the same. So what's the truth for you? Love that message. What would you say are the core values that one should have to communicating authentically and effectively?
Yeah, so I can't tell you what values you should have. I'm not in the business of telling you what you should do, because I don't know people like that, and only you know, right? Like, I'm not in the business of telling you what to do. I am in the business of challenging you to figure it out for yourself, and some ways you can do that is asking yourself, maybe, what lights me up, what brings me joy, what's something I would never do in business, what's something I hate to see being done to other people, so I can avoid doing that. Who do I admire and why? If you realize that you admire your mama because she's resourceful, then maybe resourcefulness needs to be a part of your brand, right? And so you just start asking yourself these type of questions to evaluate who you are, what you stand for, what hill you're going to die on, what makes you go on a Twitter rant, what makes you post Facebook posts, what content do you repost? One, does that feel good to you? And two, that might be a sign of the things that really get you going, right? And you can incorporate some of that into your business. So if it was like 2016, 17, I was just posting like just a lot of, Karen's was coming out, right? So like all the Karen content, I'm like, I'm ready to rah. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to be in close relationship with Karen's. Like, and so that just made me change my clientele. Like, I don't want to do this. I do not feel safe here. I'm just not, right? And so those are clues. These are all breadcrumbs to figuring out what's the most truth for you. So start to evaluate those things about yourself. Write down some core values. And I want y'all to know that, like, core values are not aspirational. They're not who you want to be. They're who you are. And I think that a lot of the times we're sold so much personal development. We're sold so much you're never enoughness that, like, we're always aspiring to be more organized. We're always aspiring to be more fit or more healthy or more whatever the hell, right? But like, if right now in your life and in your business, you're not that organized, build a business around that. Like, build a business around, I only can take on one client at a time. Maybe you need to price so you can take on one client at a time.
Right.
Price it that way and organize your business that way. So you're not, again, building a business based on who you want to be. Like, girl, you ain't organized. That's okay. You can get there one day and you can revisit this value and revisit your business structure. But like, again, operate in truth. And there's nothing wrong with who you currently are, how you currently operate. And I think that shut down all that noise about, yes, there is beauty in being self-aware and striving to be the best version of yourself. But the best, like, who you are today is a better version of who you were before, right? So let's just pause and function and build in this body and in this way and with your current circumstances. That makes sense?
That makes sense. And yes, I agree. Because I think that that's what holds people back. They're thinking so much, oh, I'm not here yet. I'm not here yet. And it's just stifling and keeping you frozen. When it's like you said, operate in where you are. First, recognize it and then move from there. And then maybe if you're not organized, you can hire somebody to organize for you. So yeah, I agree with the message. Whatever's going to get you from holding up the line.
Right.
So yes. So we have talked about the basics and understanding the basics. We talked about, how to develop that signature brand voice and personality, and then going on to how does authenticity tie into that. So now it's time to talk about implementing what we've learned and the growth. So for someone who's listening, what are some tips and strategies for starting to use their signature voice to write the marketing copy that connects with their audience, or the social copy?
Yeah, I think it starts with strategy, right? So when you're writing a caption, when you're writing a page, like ask yourself, what am I doing this for? Am I trying to inform somebody? Am I trying to persuade somebody? Do I want just simple engagement? What's up? And then how do you want people to feel, right? Do you want people to feel seen and understood? Do you want people to relate to you? Do you want people to ponder on, what you dropped, or be inquisitive or curious? So start with, why you're doing it, what the emotion is, and then what you want, what your call to action is. So the call to action could just be share this, comment. It could be, sign up, whatever, but you have to have some strategy there. And then I challenge everybody who struggles with writing authentically to do voice to text, because we speak a lot freer than we write. I don't know what it is about keyboards. I don't know what it is, but writers rock be kicking people's behind. So just say it. Like, tell me about your mug if you sell mugs. Tell me about your shirt. Tell me about this. Just say it and then edit it from there, so you can notice your cadence. You can notice where you pause. You can notice what words you say over and over again, and start to incorporate that into your word bank, right? Start to incorporate that into your signature voice. If you know that you're funny, maybe you can start to crack more jokes, intentionally. If you do it unintentionally when you speak, and you realize that I'm cracking jokes, or or you have a lot of asides, you can start to do that more frequently. But just start talking first and recognize your patterns and how you speak, and then try to be more intentional about it.
Love it. And any tips on how all of this can help people and in what way create consistent sales?
One, think about your favorite personal brand. Why you like them? Probably because you relate to them or aspire to be them or want to be with them. That's just what it is, right? And so when you show up as you are, you're going to find people who relate to you. You're going to find people who look up to you, and you're going to find people who want to be in your orbit some kind of way. And that's the beauty of being you. And if you're not you, you're going to find people who want to be affiliated with that phoniness, right? And so once you start to show up that way, you start to attract people who are more willing and more open and more ready to buy from you. So one, that's why authenticity is important. And then having a strong call to action. I don't care if you want a podcast. I don't care if you do a quick live, if you on a tweet, if you're tweeting, tell people what to do. Literally say, like this, literally say, download this today, literally say, invite a friend, literally say, drop an emoji, literally say, introduce yourself. Get in the habit of making short and small commands everywhere. And then when it's time to make a sale is just an invitation. Hey, if you're interested in this, check out my sales page today. If you know you want it, buy it today. Small things like that, we can make it sound more saucy and more, on brand for you, but just get in the habit of making small commands of people. So when it's time to make a bigger one, you're ready to go and you're not stuttering.
Yes. Action, action, action. And that will lead to growth. Amazing. And Rita, this has been so great. So I know people who are learning a lot. I'm learning a lot. Are wondering, let's talk about some of the problems that you're solving and helping people solve these problems in their business. So what are some ways that you're helping entrepreneurs and business owners with their copy needs and establishing their brand voice, and kind of touch on your offers and your process?
Yeah. So how I help people is I take writing off their hands. Like, if you feel like you aren't, which I don't necessarily believe, you feel like you don't have time or you simply don't want to, my writers and I will write your website or sales copy for you. If we are a good fit, we can also be your copywriters or speed dial, basically your chief copywriting officers. So we'll take on retainer clients and maintain all their emails, to social media profiles for you. And if you are a person who wants to learn how to figure this out on your own, I'll also teach aspiring writers and small business owners how to write their own copy through my course, Unshakable. The problems that you're having, you might be phony, you might have failed English class and you just don't want to figure out where to put this comma, or you don't have the time. If either one of those are true and you know you need copy, then hit my line.
Love it. And Rita, for someone who's listening, I want you to touch on the benefits of outsourcing this process versus DIY.
Well, I offer both of those. So I'll speak to outsourcing is depending on where you are in your business, right? Like outsourcing, you're relying on an expert, right? You know that the experts know how to do the research. You know that the experts really and truly and fully understand your brand, or are going to seek to understand your brand, and your people are going to write words to get your people going. The benefit of doing it yourself is you learn what the experts know, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. So whenever you pivot, whenever you evolve, however you evolve, you can write your own homepage, write your own emails without being dependent upon an expert in our wait list and our timeline. So there's a benefit and a beauty of both. And again, I'm not in the business of telling you what's best for you. You figure out if you got the time to write it yourself, or you figure out if you got the budget to hire somebody.
Yes, and the great thing is, like she says, she offers both. You want to do it yourself or you want to hire her, they got it. And any transformative stories from your clients that stick out?
Ooh, child, I was prepared to sound like that.
We're gonna put you on, okay?
My clients, Jesus, I've written for clients who had #1 Amazon best-selling books. I've written for clients who generated $1 million in revenue in a year, they thanks to like my team and, you know, our marketing campaigns. I mean, those are like the quantifiable things, but like the things that you can't feel, I mean, you can't count, are just like countless amount of women telling me that they really just like, you know, took off their mask and they gave themselves permissions to be whatever they are, right? And they stopped all the foolishness and the dancery, and they're just like doing their own thing and attracting the people. And like, y'all, now people inside of Unshakable, like I want to share with you, I don't know if you have show notes, but
yeah,
the people inside of Unshakable, like what they're able to do in 1 month and what they're able to write and what they're able to like really uncover about themselves and their own clientele is just like, it blows my mind every single cohort. So I would say I can confidently say that I give people permission to abandon all the rules and rewrite them for themselves.
I love that. I love it. Yes.
I love it too.
Yeah, it's so amazing. And, you know, that's how I found you. So,
yeah, how did you find me?
I was searching. I'm a stalker. So I lovingly stalk, but I really, you know, like our audience is those who really are interested in transforming their businesses and just showing up as their full selves. And, you know, we in the business world know the power of copywriting. So I'm like, I feel it to my bones that a lot of business owners, especially Black business owners, we feel like we cannot show up as ourselves. So I'm like, copy is important. Who is saying it like they want to and showing up as themselves? And I'm telling you, like when I looked at your page, I'm like, yes, she says it how it is, and she resonates with her audience. So honestly, Rita, I don't mean to say this, but I didn't come across a lot of copywriters, Black copywriters that are doing what you're doing, honestly.
I'm gonna shout out one or two. I'm gonna shout out what Shan wrote. She's a copywriter for product-based businesses. I primarily focus and work with service-based businesses, honestly. Yeah. And she has a DIY captions template that is dope, and she's really herself. just the cutest and most passionate and just fun person out there. And I just want to shout out my team, Ebony, Sydney, Olympia. They are amazing and strong copywriters who are building their own personal brands right now. But I'm with you. Outside of that, I don't know too many people in this space. And that's all I got.
Yeah. And that's our audience. Our audience is those who provide professional services. So so you're doing your thing, and I am loving to see it. And I know it's going to inspire so many more people who love writing, who love helping people show up authentically to do the same. So, yes. And all of the things that you're doing, you mentioned that you have a team, and how do you stay organized or close to? What are some of your favorite tools that have really helped you in this entrepreneurial journey?
Project management, I use ClickUp. So, I mean, before that, like really understanding what my creative process is. So having a real framework for how I work. So if it's like, and this is, again, being honest, because like creativity is just not something I could pick up every day. So if brainstorming is a 1 month process, writing is a 3 month process, which is not, but I'm just saying 3 month process, editing is a 1 month process. Be honest so you can let your clients know this is going to take 6 months. This is not a 2 week, 3 week thing. And have referrals out for people who want something quick, right? So just be honest about how you work so you can build a business around how you flow, but then understanding what you do first, kind of like systematize it. Is that a word? So get your beginning, middle, and end of your process, and then create tasks within those and ClickUp. That serves me. Also have some policies and procedures so you can train your team. Don't bring people on your team. It's just like, oh girl, good luck. Like, here's how we do it at our house. Because again, we're doing more with less. I ain't got no HR team. I ain't got no training team. But I know how to write a 1, 2, 3, 4 steps for you to follow. So here's these steps, whether it's video or written, whatever your strong suit is. And I do that in Loom. I do client management in Dubsado, sending out invoices and proposals and just having one house for all of my emails. The Google Suite keeps me completely organized from their calendar to their emails to sheets and docs and drives. I keep it relatively simple. I don't use a lot of tools because I'm not really trying to pay for it, to be honest. I told y'all to do more with less, try to keep my overhead costs low. But yeah, those things support me in my business.
Love it. And I'll be sure to link all of those resources in the show notes. And Rita, what is the best risk that you've taken?
The best risk that I've taken?
Yes.
Ooh, girl. I would say there's two. The best risk that I took was just becoming an entrepreneur, being really fed up with just not making my own hours and not making my own dress code. And just like, I really like to do what I want, how I want, when I want. And so just saying I am an entrepreneur out loud and really committing and sticking to that was like one of the greatest and most rewarding risks. But also just like I was like married, living in California, and I was like, I don't want to do this shit. And I moved back home in the house of my mom. And I know I'm making it sound really funny, but it was not. It was a very stressful time. But like admitting that to myself and coming back and like being 30-something in my mom's house and really just setting a goal to be happy was probably the second greatest risk that I took. So, I mean, I don't want to make this like a hero story, but like you gonna land on your feet, just jump. And if not, I mean, corporate ain't going anywhere. You can always go back for a check, or you can hustle and chase your dreams while you are pursuing, entrepreneurship. So just try it out. If y'all out there, just try it out.
I love that. Yes, it's always a choice. And then also, I'm going to ask about, for someone who's listening, their first year of business, what advice would you give them?
Oh, Jesus. That first year of business, like, again, it's always about being honest with yourself and really separating your inherent value. Like, you are priceless. We can't put a number on you. Like, yes, you're amazing, but like, we can put a number on your experience, child. Now, so don't be hopping out here trying to charge $20K and you can learn from the YouTube. Like, stop. Like you have to evaluate. And this is no shade, right? But you really have to evaluate your experience, expertise, and I think I wanted to do 3, but that's all I got right now. You have to really evaluate your strengths, right? And like, it's okay to be a beginner. And then you can transition into being an intermediate. You can transition into being an expert, but like, stop jumping. Like, just invest in professional development, whatever that looks like. Because yes, you can learn a lot of things on YouTube, but really commit to it. Like, don't hop in here with some superficial understanding of the industry, a product or a service, and then overvaluate yourself or your service. Like, that's just, it's unrealistic, and it sets you up for extreme frustration because you may not, you might hit a lick, but you may not be profitable in that way because people who understand the industry have certain expectations when you say that you charge this much, but also don't undervalue yourself. Like, let's not work for free. A shout out ain't about to get you no business. So again, do the market research, do competitor analysis, see who's been in the industry as long as you, see what they're pricing their products at, what they're pricing their products at, and just be a little more honest with yourself, because the feel good entrepreneurial little post that I see on Twitter and Instagram all the time is really going to set you up to be disappointed. So,
yeah, keeping it real. I love it. And I love that you said, don't be afraid. It's okay to be a beginner. Yes, I totally agree. So,
also, I want to throw something else in there. If you can, get a mentor, and that doesn't necessarily have to be paid, right? But get a mentor who's been in business or something very similar for you to talk to. Because a lot of time we're in like these little silos of people who are 1 or 2 years in business right along with us. And I mean, yes, we can share our knowledge amongst each other, but what they going to teach you? Like, and not in that way, right? Like, there's beauty in that networking community, but you need somebody who can say, like, who's been there and done that, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a financial exchange for that. So, when you go to these networking events, like, social media, you're supposed to be social. So create relationships, build relationships with people, get some mentorship so you can learn the ropes without the large investment all the time. And you can kind of avoid some pitfalls, but there will be some, but you know what I mean? And if there's any copywriters out there, like, I'm always hiring for my team. My DMs are relatively open. You can't necessarily pick my brain, but I'm open to getting to know you. And if we're a good fit, personality wise, we can, I'm open to mentoring folks too. So find people who are open.
And where can they find you if they want to connect with you, follow you, and support you?
You can find me on everything at Rita Olds. Instagram is primarily where I am. You can also find me at ritaolds.com. Join my email list because I send out little love notes and pointers and like things that I find in marketing trends frequently. And then, deals and new offerings there all the time. So everything Rita Olds, RITAOLDS. There should only be one me out there. So please don't be afraid to say hi. I'm very introverted despite, me being on this podcast just talking. But like, I'm not socially awkward. I'll very much welcome friends. Extroverts can adopt me through my DMs. But again, it has to be organic. So, shoot your shot. I'm always looking for new people.
Love it. And finally, Rita, what does it mean to you to be Black in business?
Whoa. Now, that was a great question. What does it mean to me to be Black in business? Was that on the list of questions? Because you really
No, it's not.
Okay, because I was not prepared for that. What does it mean to be Black in business? To be Black in business, to be Black in general is like, come on. it is the most lit experience I'm gonna have here on this earth. I wouldn't imagine and couldn't imagine being anything else, because we are really the pulse of the culture. Like when you think of fucking K-pop, what they doing? Bouncing around like boy bands trying to be us. Like, I mean, for real. So like, it's really, really lit. And for me to be in marketing and primarily to only work for Black people, to me, it's really like revolutionary to say, like, I do not give a flying F-U-C-K about nobody else's dollar, and I'm not giving y'all the secret sauce. Like, I absolutely get to gatekeep the culture in that way. Like, I'm not giving y'all no language. I'm not telling y'all how to sell to us. I'm not selling your shit to us. So for me, it's really just revolutionary, and I really enjoy being in a space to let people know that you can do this shit your way. You can curse as much as you want. You can pull up in a hoodie if you want. Like, you can discriminate against around who you want to work with. Like, you really can do what you want to do, still be profitable, still be happy, and, you know, say screw all the other things. So that's all I got. I hope that was good, Chad.
That was good. No, that was good.
Girl, I give me all the questions next time. Don't do that.
You know, we have to keep it a little off the cuff now. I can't give you everything. Okay. But I did, you know, give you as much as I could. But I think it's a great question, because it's like, I love to hear the answers, and like, to even hear you say, I get to gatekeep. I'm not giving y'all our language. Like, this is the power of entrepreneurship. That is the power of being a Black entrepreneur. For everyone who's listening, you are you just drove it home. You were in control.
And there's not many spaces where we have that power, to be honest. So like, yeah, I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna run with it.
Yeah. I love it. Rita, this has been amazing. And truly, truly, I thank you for being on the show and showing us how to be authentic in our messaging, our brand, and our copy, by being a perfect example of someone who is doing that. So we appreciate you for pouring into us and doing what you're doing for the culture.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for stalking me a little bit. And again, my social media doors are open, so please let me know what you've learned. Look, I'm practicing what I preach. I'm giving y'all call to action, but get used to it. So, like, please slide in my DMs. Tell me what you learned. Tell me if there were any aha moments for you. Share your core values. Say hello. I would love that. And thank you again.
Love this conversation. And I just knew that Rita would bring it. I had a few aha moments during our conversation, and I love that Rita really drilled in the importance of knowing your market and realizing that your business ain't for everybody. And I also loved how she encouraged us to get in the habit of making small demands with our copy. So many gems. You can learn more about all the resources that Rita mentioned by visiting blacktobusiness.com/95. Be sure to share this episode with a friend and leave us a review on wherever you like to listen to podcasts. See you next week, same time, same place.